Gentlemen, members of the League of Legends, welcome to the Week 12 preview. Today I'm going to do a little bit of recapping. We're going to follow that up by highlighting going forward some expectations for this week. We'll take a look at the matchups, and also I'm going to try to dive in and spend a lot of the time here into the playoff race because, frankly, I don't know that I've ever been in a league where in Week 12, 10 teams were still alive, not only mathematically, but really alive for the playoffs. 10 teams can still get in. And I don't know that I've been a part of a league like that, and I've been playing fantasy football for a long time. So first thing I want to do is look at the scoreboard for last week that just got over with. So we're going to dive into that a little bit here. Because we had some really big matchups here. And just taking a look at these real quick, Luke and I squared off in a match that my team really needed to win. I'd lost, I think, 3 in a row or 2 out of 3, actually. And Luke, looking at his schedule going forward, he plays Adam Brandt this week in what I honestly think is it's almost an elimination game. So the winner of the Luke and Adam Brandt match still stays alive to get in the playoffs. Luke then the final week will play Tyler's team. We'll talk about Tyler here in a moment. Another matchup this week, as I predicted, Mr. Luckbox knocked off Adam Brandt, but again, Adam Brandt can get right back up to 500 this week if he can defeat Luke's team. I know Zeke Elliott let him down a little bit. Did not have a 40 burger again. Trampas' team knocked off the Butt Buddies. They play again this week. My comments on Trampas' team and Ryan and Danny is that both of these teams are going to be in the playoffs. They play again this week. Even if Danny's team and Ryan's team, even if they do lose once again to Trampas, they play Pat in the final week of the season. But we'll take a look in the preview who I'm going to predict will win that rematch here. And again, kind of odd they play back-to-back weeks. We had Tyler's team just getting crushed by Don't Stop Believing, and maybe the greatest name change timing-wise. Gray's team is starting to find it. You know, this is 2 out of 3 weeks that his team's just really gone off. I think he put up 130 against me. So Gray's team's starting to find it. Love the name change, Don't Stop Believing. Then we had Jesse, who was just pummeled by Michael's team, who went off, and part of the running up the score there was because of a free agent ad that Michael actually added during the bye week. I totally missed it. But, you know, does he potentially have the starting running back there in Washington going forward? Then we have Jason's team, who knocked off Pat, and Jason continues to find ways to win. So he's 6-5 and certainly still in the race here. Let's go back here real quick and let's look at the standings. And I have the remaining schedules for these teams, as well as some other things that I want to take a look at. But before we do that, let's just, as we do every week, I want to remind you that we are brought to you by the great people at the Tesler, Adler, Whalen, Almost Evans law firm. And, you know, what they can do for you is anything you want. You know, if you are going to be in law trouble, you are in legal problems, you need things on your record to go away, give Trampas a call. You know, he's a great young man. He asked in a text thread that I mentioned his elite level of fantasy play, and you got to give it to him. He's leading the league in points by right at 100. So here's what we have, and again, I've said it all year. Points really matter. So taking a look here at schedules going forward, Trampas will play Danny and Mike, so a couple teams that kind of need to win. That Week 13 matchup for Mike could be pretty big. Mike plays me this week in another just huge matchup for both teams. I'm looking to get a bye, and Mike's certainly trying to get into the playoffs. Looking down at Jesse, Jesse's a team that's going to make the playoffs as well. I think he's in there almost for sure. I think he can maybe even lose out. Danny can't lose out. He needs to get one more win. Looking at Tyler's team, this is a big week for Ty. This week he plays Jason, and we look forward to that matchup. Those of you who are on the bubble, certainly this is a game on the schedule that you love to see. And then Jason next week will play Jesse. So a lot of these teams in that 6-5 range playing each other coming down the stretch here. Adam Brandt's team, he plays. Adam Brandt plays Luke and then Gray. So some other teams there in that 5 and 6 range. 5 and 6, yes, correct. And then going forward, let's take a look. Let's take a look at our preview for this week. I have some other announcements I want to mention as we go through this. So again, guys, it's already week 12. I really think that there are 4 teams that, if we take a look at it, that they are going to be in the playoffs. And the reason for this is I think Danny's team's going to get that win in the last week, and I think Trampas potentially could lose his last 2 matches and still get a bye, depending what my team and Jesse's do, unless both of us were to win out. It's looking like Trampas will have one of the byes. And then I think Jesse and my teams are in pretty good shape as well to make the playoffs. But, it's about that bye. If you can get that second bye, and Jesse and I are battling for that, and Danny's still alive as well, certainly with his points. If you can get that second bye, you can guarantee yourself some money. Tyler's still alive for the second bye as well. I know his team kind of laid an egg this week, but Tyler's still another team who could potentially get that second bye. Before we get started, I want to quote someone. Opportunity. The word opportunity, what it is it's a noun. It's defined as a set of circumstances that makes it possible to do something. Okay, so Kevin Garnett would say anything is possible, but no respect for Kevin Garnett, potentially one of the least intelligent athletes to ever play. One other young man who grew up in Detroit, and that's Eminem. So he's driving around in his whip right now. He once said that you have one opportunity to seize everything you ever wanted. That is a League of Legends championship. He said one moment are you going to capture it or are you going to let it slip? And he says, he wants you to lose yourself in that moment. Some things this week we're going to take a look at here. We have Juice Me Up against Dab on him. And, this is a big week for Michael, but as well it's a big week for me because in the final week of the season I play Adam Foster's team, who I believe points against, he's running away with it. His points against is 8 fewer than Trampas' points scored. So just put that in perspective. That would be like him playing Trampas' team every week, points-wise. So here's what we have. Again, I would love to win this to put myself in position to get a bye, but I know Michael has some really good matchups this week, and mine are not favorable. So I do think this is going to be very interesting. And what I'm going to need is I haven't had a quarterback go for 25 or more in quite a while. I had some good Jameis Winston weeks, but Matt Stafford at home, I don't love the matchup against Minnesota. You see Cam on the other side against Oakland. Michael has a couple questionable running backs, one coming back from concussion and one's LaShawn McCoy, so he's pretty much always on the injury report. And then, he has Dougie McBuckets, who I love this matchup with Tampa Bay. Don't love so much Mike Evans against Seattle, but Stefon Diggs added to the injury report. He plays on Thursday, so guys, make sure you pay attention this week on Thanksgiving. 6 teams are playing, so if you have guys who are questionable, make sure you have your phones while you're digging into that turkey, and that tryptophan's making you tired there. And, again, Michael added Robert Kelly, who ran up the score on Jesse last week. Wouldn't need him to win, but a very interesting matchup here. And I tell you, I'm not going to predict it, but this is a big one. This is a really big one here for the league moving forward. A lot of people with interest in this game. I think, as odd as it is to say, I think a large majority of people would kind of like me to win this to make it tougher on Michael for those middling teams who are at 6-5 and 5-6. Here we have Trampas' team against Danny's, and Danny's yet to update his roster. He's going to move, I'm assuming, Ty Montgomery out and Matt Forte in. So let's add about 10 points to that projection. Danny also probably going to get Gronk back. I don't really know what the Gronk situation is there, but either way, I think Danny's projection is probably about 15 too low. I'm guessing this is more of a 5-point spread. And looking at this matchup, I really think this is what it comes down to is Tom Brady at the Jets. And the Jets always, a lot of times it seems like they find a way to play Tom Brady tough. And we touched on this last week. Tom Brady isn't always super selfish, but I think last week he had another big day. But what's that game script going to look like? Are the Jets going to stay in the game? Is Tom Brady going to have a 3-touchdown game? Because it's somewhat close to what Trampas is looking for from him here. And then, you have a plus matchup there for Jordan Howard against Tennessee. You have Julio Jones, however, for Trampas on Patrick Peterson. And that's a matchup in the past. Patrick Peterson likes physical receivers. He doesn't, and he's admitted this. He says he doesn't like the quick guys, the T.Y. Hiltons, who just run the 9 routes and the fly patterns and such. So I did this last week. Just looking at Danny's team, I like Odell Beckham at Cleveland. I think it's a good spot for him. I really like Amari Cooper in a Carolina game this week. And I did it last week. I think I kind of want to do it again. I just think that where those touchdowns go, in that Jets game, especially once Danny gets Matt Forte in there, is going to dictate the winner. So I'm leaning Danny again. And again, I think Trampas is going to get a bye, probably even if he loses out. So, that's not bashing his team at all. Just think Danny's in a good little spot there from a matchup standpoint. And tough to beat a good team back to back. Here's Simply Simple against Jason's team. And Jason, I have some waiver wire ideas for you here. You have Scott Tolzien. Do you want to go with him against Pittsburgh? The Colts backup quarterback, Ryan Tannehill, San Francisco. Carson Wentz on Monday Night Football, so you could have the added drama of him maybe winning your match late. Sam Bradford at Detroit on Thursday, so if you want to enjoy that while you're having your turkey. And then Jared Goff in New Orleans because you need a quarterback. So, who do I like here? I got to like Simply Simple victory, but, and what this will do going forward is Jason still will have a big match with Jesse. Although I think Jason may need to win out, so he's really going to need to put his heart and soul and talk to his guys and have them rally around one another and around the same common goal of having this chance for glory. But this week, just looking at Tyler's team, I do prefer it, and I think this is a tough spot for Jason. Jason, you need to rally your guys, man. We want to see you in those playoffs. We love the camaraderie and the trash talk. My team specifically really has enjoyed watching your team this year and watching them grow and get healthy. So we're rooting for you, and I think you need to win your next two matchups to get in the playoffs, Jason. Here we have Shake and Bake against Mr. Luckbox. And, Jesse really needs this one to avoid going into free fall. Jesse's last game of the season, as referenced, he plays Jason. Jesse is a team that potentially could lose his last two games and still slide into the playoffs again. So really he's playing for that bye. Mr. Luckbox, Adam is the spoiler. He plays Jesse this week, me next week. So certainly will impact that bye. Adam has a huge role there to play, potentially. Taking a look at these matchups, I'll just we'll look and see who I enjoy more. I definitely trust Derek Carr a lot more than Carson Palmer. Carson Palmer kind of a bum. Le'Veon Bell at the Colts, such a good matchup. And then you have John Stewart with Oakland. Jesse does have Jeremy Hill in a larger role. He lost A.J. Green. Brandon Marshall's terrible. I like Michael Crabtree, and I like that you have the David Carr covered slightly there. I love Steve Smith every week. Jordan Reed is a guy who's kind of been up and down, but just looking at Mr. Luckbox's team, you look at it top to bottom and you think this is a team that can go for 130 every single week. Because of that, I like Mr. Luckbox this week. Here we have Don't Stop Believing and Nathan Sucks D's Nuts. And Don't Stop Believing is going to win this by a landslide. I actually really want to predict that Gray gets into the playoffs. And I think there's a very good possibility. And again, just a great, outstanding, fantastic name change. Next week, who does Gray play in the final week? He plays Adam Brandt. So again, big matchups all over the slate going forward. We're back. Had a little technical difficulty there. Running out of ideas is Luke's team name. He's changed his name every week, and I think he's a little frustrated with his team, a little down on his luck against Mighty Midgets, Adam Brandt's team. And I think what Adam is probably going to, I kind of like that matchup with Big Ben on Thursday, so I think he has some lineup tweaking to do. But I still like Luke in this spot. I just think he has Thomas Rawls as the clear-cut number one running back in a matchup with Tampa Bay, and I think that questionable tag will come off. He has Theo Riddick, just some consistency throughout his lineup, and I like Luke's receivers in Antonio Brown, Terrell Pryor, and Demaryius Thomas. So I think Luke gets a win this week, and then he sets up a matchup in that final week with Tyler, where that potentially could be a huge game for both teams. Action music today, guys, is Pia Mia Do It Again, featuring Chris Brown and Tyga. It's a catchy, fresh beat. Been in my head a little bit this week. Good luck this week, guys, to everybody. Jalen Richard, Richard is a lot better than DeAndre Washington. You know, that just needs to be said. Has a role in the offense, even when Murray's healthy. Washington, 0 glories. Like, who wants that? Jarvis Landry has 2 more glories this season than DeAndre Washington. I have the same amount of glories as DeAndre Washington. Sparkling ice. Delicious.